Welcome back to Add to Your Faith Ministries. Usually I'm doing Synoptic Gospel study, but as you know, over the month of July, I have not been doing that because my family have all been in India doing a mission trip and visiting with family members. So we are back in Korea and have moved apartments and gotten settled. So I want to get back to doing our series. Today, what I want to talk about is actually a report from our India trip and show some pictures and let you see what we were doing in India and talk about that a little bit. And then next week, I'll start back in our Synoptic Gospel study. So let me share with you some of these things and then we will. Ooh, that's the wrong button. That share, other kind of share. All right, let me see if I can get this going. Okay, so as I said, we have been in India for most of July. If you don't know, my husband has Love One Another Ministries, or LOAM. You can check that out at loamindia.org. He is one of the founders and the international coordinator and fundraiser for that ministry, which basically means he gathers all of the support and people support and funding support and prayer support to make the ministries possible that he and his brothers and some other pastors have started in India. So with being LOAM missionaries, we went to India to visit the ministries and to be a part of that. And again, if you're not familiar with LOAM, the vision of Love One Another Ministries is to introduce God's love to every person and every people group, language, and culture, and bring them into the fold of God's kingdom through the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ by word and deed. So we do that through many different ministries. And we're very excited to be able to go to India and actually have some more hands-on ministry with the work. Because of COVID, we weren't able to go. I had not been back since our wedding in 2018. Santos had been back a couple of times since then, but I had not. So Jonathan had never gone. So it was his first time in India, and it was just a great trip all around. One thing we did was we took a mini vacation the first day we were there. We flew into Delhi, and about 2 hours from Delhi by train is Agra, where the Taj Mahal is. And it had always been a dream of mine to be able to see the Taj Mahal. It was definitely everything and much, much more than I had dreamed or expected from just things I had seen about the Taj Mahal. So it was just a really great experience to get to see it. We definitely enjoyed that. I have lots and lots of pictures and videos online, so you can check out my Facebook for more of those pictures. So what we were mainly doing was working in Santos's hometown of Chaligada Village, which you can see. I am standing in the church here where I took the photos of his village. So if you go this direction, that's the Hindu side of the little village, and these streets that go this way are the Christian streets. And so most of traditional areas are divided by the religion of the people, mostly because the Hindus' belief doesn't allow them to mix with people that are untouchable to them, like Christians. So the church is at the beginning, and then you have the streets. So we were working there for most of our time because this is where Santos's dad lives, and many of his brothers and sisters came so that we could visit together while we were there. And his brother is the pastor of the church, the Baptist church where I'm standing, and we had the opportunity to do a lot of ministry through the church and through LOAM while we were there, which was really exciting and such an encouraging blessing for us to be able to see so much passion and excitement to learn. So I think for many people, the way Chaligada looks maybe a little surprising from like a first world perspective, but it works really well. They have what they need except for water. The big issue in Chaligada is it's built on a rock that doesn't have water, and they've had many issues over the years getting enough water into the town for everyone. But other than that, it functions really well. You can see Santos's house here with some nieces and nephews on the roof. They could see us from the church, so everybody's taking pictures of each other. There is his father, Laban Spartan, who is the former pastor of the church and still a big part of the ministry there and lives there. And there's our Jonathan in his traditional clothing, very perkily walking down the street. He was so happy in India. He did really well. He adjusted quickly and just excellent experience, I think, for him. He loved getting to visit with all his family and the cousins and lots of fun time. So that was really great. He did get sick a couple of times, but we were able to get some good doctors and medicine to him quickly, and it was fine, just some colds. So, it was a really great time. They had not met before, so it was great to be able to spend that time together this month. So one of the things that the church had asked us while we were there to do some speaking and some different programming. And so the first night I presented at the church basically about what I was going to be speaking on for the rest of the conferences that week. I spoke for about 20 minutes on the Sunday night service and just talked about family discipleship and how important it is for parents to be responsible for the spiritual development of their children, and for the church to be responsible and accepting of the spiritual development of children, and how children receive Christ and should be allowed to follow in baptism and should be allowed to do ministry and start sharing the gospel, and how parents can help facilitate that process of learning and growth. That was just really my focus through a lot of what I was teaching. So I presented just that kind of concept to the church, and then explained that on Monday, I would be teaching an evangelism conference for children and families to be able to come and learn how to share the gospel in their home context, as well as in schools, and for the church to children, and for parents to children, adults to children, children to children. I just wanted it to be a very open conference that anyone could come and learn. I was working with using material from Child Evangelism Fellowship International. I'm very much a supporter of CEF's ministries, and despite everything I learned in seminary, I find that how they train me to share the gospel is the one I use the most. I think the wordless book method is very effective for cross-cultural evangelism, and I love it. So we talked to a CEF branch in the capital of Odisha, the state where we were at, and they had all of the training materials in Odia. So that was extremely exciting. We didn't have to translate all the materials that we needed for the evangelism conference, but instead it was available. So we were able to get wordless books and bookmarks and training materials so that anyone who came would be able to participate with those kind of resources. So that was really exciting. So it's a very traditional culture. The women and men sit in different parts of the church. Women have head coverings, especially when speaking or praying. So that's why I have this scarf on my head. And then my brother-in-law, Lalithir, is the pastor of the church, and he was the translator for a lot of what I did. So there on that Monday, we had the Evangelism Training Conference, which was very well attended. I think it was 150 or more people who came to participate. It was mostly the mothers because it was a family conference, but most of the men are working. So the women attended very well. And then we had some children that attended as well as some older teenage boys that maybe college age. They really kept care of the kids and helped them understand the training, which was really great, as well as my father-in-law and some of the deacons of the church and some elders that came and were present as well. And it was a very encouraging day as I saw people receiving the training with such enthusiasm. It was very exciting just to see the participation. And as you can see on this, whoops, sorry, I wanted to go back. On my PowerPoint slide, it says Raising Godly Kids, which was I'm really having trouble with PowerPoint, sorry. Raising Godly Kids, which was my first session. I built on what I had kind of explained in the Sunday night program and developed like what is our call as families to raise godly kids, like what are the verses about that, what is the ideal or the theory behind it, but then also the practical ways that we can do that in our home settings, from putting Bible verses on the walls to having family worship at night and mornings to Bible memorization and evangelism within the home setting. And just that it's a way we live as a family, not just a time in the day, but a lifestyle of raising godly kids and family discipleship. So that was the first session before I went into the actual CEF material. So as we worked through, my scarf fell off. This is actually a different program, I believe. I'm wearing a different outfit here. We have it labeled as evangelism training, but let me see. No, aren't I wearing something? No, same outfit. I just lost my scarf. My bad. Anyway, I had a little trouble keeping up with all that. So anyway, in this evangelism training conference, we talked most of the day, morning, and then by the mid-afternoon, we had snacks and released them. But before we released them, we had a practice time where they put them in groups. Everyone, as you can see, the two different, everyone's sitting in groups, and then had people practice presenting the gospel and using the method. And it went really well. You never know how people are going to respond, if they're going to feel awkward or be hesitant. But they were very enthusiastic to try it. And I mean, a few people were shy, of course, but a lot of people just really got into it, especially this lady was such a blessing. She's a teacher, and it really showed just her confidence in doing it. And she'll be a part of the team that volunteered to take the gospel to some of the areas that we're trying to reach. So it was just exciting to see the training and the participation, as well as the response at the end. After the training, we asked if anyone was willing to be a part of a team to go into an unreached area, where the gospel has not spread yet, and to take the gospel and to work with the LOAM and the church teams to, I believe it was a church team, not LOAM on that one, but anyway, to work with one of our teams to share the gospel. And many of the women volunteered, and it was a very moving and precious time to see. And as I talk about every time with evangelism in this kind of context, as a person, I'm very passionate about evangelism, but I can only reach maybe one or two people at a time. But if I can train all of these people to be able to go do it in their own language, to the people groups around them that they can communicate with, or have more context with, then it's such an effective thing. So it was really exciting to have the opportunity to train an army of evangelists who are ready to go and to make a difference in these areas of India that still do not understand the gospel of Jesus Christ and don't have access to that. So it was a very precious and exciting day. I was really glad to see how that went. So the next day at the LOAM school, as you know, Santos built a school in Odisha that is a Christian school, English-speaking school, for the community to be able to have a good education available in an area that only has a few poorly run government schools. So due to COVID, we've not been able to have classes for a while, but hopefully that's going to start back up soon. But using the school campus, we had the women's conference there, and I think it was around 200 women that came for that teaching. So Santos was my interpreter that day. And for the women's conference, we started at like 10 in the morning and went till I think it was 2 in the afternoon. And then around 2, we served lunch that we had provided for them. And I think most of it was over by around 3 or 4. It was a really great day. In between sessions, we had worship time, and it was just very encouraging and very uplifting. Again, just seeing the intense desire to learn and to grow and to be really to add to their faith. As I use that expression for my ministry in general, how important it is that we add to our faith. That was one of the things that I was teaching. So for the women's conference, in that same vein with family discipleship, talking about how our personal faith growth, that we start with faith of salvation, but as Peter says, we need to add to that faith and grow in our spiritual walks and add to those things like patience and endurance and love and all these different qualities and character qualities that God wants to develop in our lives, need to develop on top of our faith. We have to start with salvation and regenerate faith. But once we are born again, then God wants us to go through that process of step-by-step adding and growing in that faith. And so I talked about that process and how we grow in our faith and what our goals are, and then how that spiritual walk as a woman impacts our families and our relationships. So like, how does it impact us as mothers and as daughters and as wives and as friends and as sisters and all these different relationships that we have, how they are impacted by our growth in our faith. And then just kind of work through in different sessions what it means to live that out. What is the application of that? What does it look like in your marriage? What does it look like in your parenting to have this living faith, and how does it impact it? So the last session, we talked a lot about marriage and the marriage relationships, and just again, how that, if you were married to someone who's not a Christian, what does that look like? Because you have a lot of people that come to Christ and then maybe their husband is not, or is not practicing, they say they're a Christian, but they aren't living it. And so like, how does that change the behavior? Just all kinds of those practical life issues that come up from for women in the faith, and how do we apply these teachings to our life? So it was fun to teach, and it was beautiful to work with them. If you go to my Facebook again, you can see some videos of them singing during the worship time, and it was just really great. I loved it. It was very fulfilling for me as a person called to teach and to minister with the gospel, and especially to teach women, to have the opportunity to actually do that on this scale. I don't get to do that very often. I have very few people that I'm able to teach here in Korea, as there's a lot of resistance to that here, as well as opportunity due to most people not being interested. And so actually being able to teach such a large group of interested and, ready individuals was a different kind of ministry than we've had for the last, I've been here since 2012. So over that decade, the difference was so apparent to me, and very just refreshing. And so I was so excited to have that opportunity. They pray with such fervence and worship with passion and listen with intent. And it was just a beautiful thing to get to teach them. So you can kind of see most of them here. It was a great day. Really enjoyed getting to do that. Like I said, we provided lunch, which was very good, and everyone enjoyed getting to sit down and have lunch together in the different rooms there. It's very common since it's kind of construction zone, not to sit like in chairs and stuff. So everyone was okay with that situation, I think. Now, they're on the school campus. As any of you all follow our newsletter, and if you don't get the newsletter but are interested in the updates for what's happening in India and here in Korea, please message me or comment on the video, and I'll be glad to get you information on how to get our monthly newsletter. But one of the things that most of you know about is Santos has been raising money to build this orphanage. He's raised most of the money now, I think, for the actual construction. Our children are not all sponsored, and there's still, obviously always going to be a lot more that's needed. But it's great to see the bulk of the construction has been paid for. He had a church that was in America that was willing to sponsor that build, I think, and there's been some individuals as well who have donated to it. And I think in total, there's been like $85,000 that's been given for the build. And so it's coming along really well. When he was there for his mother's funeral in May, the end of May and beginning of April, he took some pictures, and it was just the foundation. So from that time till now, despite it being rainy season, they've been able to build on the two different sides of the orphanage. One side will be for the boys and the other side for the girls, two separate buildings. And then as it's built, the goal is that in between the two sides, here they'll build a dining hall eventually in the future, with the outdoor bathrooms and things will be in the back. But it's coming along really well. And so continue praying for that, and pray about what you can do or your church could do to support the children that need to be sponsored for that. If you haven't been following us, back in 2007 and 2008, there was some extreme Hindu persecution of Christians in Odisha that killed a lot of families and left their children behind. And so that was the beginning of the orphanage. Was a family took in all the martyred children of martyrs. And from there, it grew to include like any children that were at risk for human trafficking and or families that were just too poor to feed their kids. So this, has been a long-term building program of developing a safe place for these children. Right now, the orphanage is really far away from any of our ministries. It's very, very remote due to where the Hindu persecution originally was. And the children aren't able to get a good education, and we're not able to watch after them very well because it's so far away from any of our ministry teams. And so we're excited that they'll be moved to this school campus, and the younger ones will be able to start their schooling there at the LOAM campus. The older ones we'll have to work out for them what to do to finish up with their like high school and all those things. But it's definitely a work in progress, as we'll need to get the home parents who live on campus, as well as his brother who lives on campus in a different house, to administer between the orphanage and the school. So it's coming along, and just seeing that vision that Santos had to be able to create such a place, and all the people in his family and community who have come alongside with him, and the different ones who have donated support, and just seeing how God has taken that vision and created something so great is really exciting. So it was good to get to be there. So another thing is, while we were married, we went to this waterfall and took wedding photos. And so we went back to take photos with Jonathan. There was a movie that was being shot at the time, which made it quite complicated to get shots we could get on our own. So we moved to a different area, and this is called Slippery Waterfall. And we all fell in the mud, wallered around a little bit, had trouble getting out. It was quite adventurous, but we did get a few good photos. So just want to thank everyone who has been praying for us and supporting us as we have been doing a lot of like newsletter writing and talking about the different ministry aspects of LOAM, and to be able to be there and be a part of it was such a blessing. We appreciate everyone who's been supporting and being a part of making that ministry possible. Also, there was a lot of other stuff that we did that is not in that PowerPoint that I can just talk about briefly. Santos preached several times within the church. He got to work with the children's ministry, the youth, the main church. He preached, I think, the men's ministry. I also spoke to the women's ministry on a Friday night, and they divide by day who has like a worship service. The women's worship service, I preached the women's sermon on righteousness, and it was not what I had intended to speak on, but God just really guided me to do that. And it was a lot of like kind of heavy theology and stuff, but my brother-in-law, as we translated later, he told me that it was really a blessing, because most of the time the women's ministry doesn't get that kind of like intense doctrine. And it was just really great to be able to see the God's message for them and what I got to communicate to that group. And again, Santos got to preach several times to the church, and we had planned to go to the pastor's training conference that he is instrumental in organizing, and his brothers are teaching in, and have a lot of supporters from the States that are like sending curriculum and stuff. We were planning on doing that, and then we got food poisoning that weekend that we were supposed to go there, so we didn't get to do that part. But one other thing I got to do was the church had asked me to speak on a Sunday night, and as I considered all of the different things that we had been doing there, and like seeing the need for evangelism training, and seeing the interest in family discipleship, and just all the stuff that I had been working with, I thought I would go that direction. And then God was just really clear that I was going to go in a different direction this time. And I was surprised. I talked to my brother-in-law beforehand, since he's the pastor of the church, and he agreed and supported the idea totally. So I actually talked on an ecological or environmental topic, which is unusual for me. I'm not like an environmentalist, but I do very passionately believe that God is clear in his scripture that we are supposed to be taking care of the earth and be responsible for our part of the planet. Like that's something Christians are called to. And I went through all of the verses in the Bible. There's a lot. I didn't hit all of them. I couldn't hit all of them, but I went through a lot of verses that call us to the stewardship of God's earth and our testimony as Christians on the way we take care of our homes and our planet. So the reason I was talking about that is in Chaligada, there is no government provided garbage removal. So they have no way to be able to properly deal with garbage, which is causing toxic buildups in their waters and the vegetables and everything they're growing. And there's signs of that through all of the cancer and different health problems that are coming out in the village. And so I talked on that and like showed the science behind, what happens when there's built up garbage that's not removed and the toxins from that, like what health problems come and what has God called us to do for our own health and for our testimony to our lost neighbors, to get all the garbage piles out from behind the church. It's like there's a mountain of garbage back there and all up and down the streets that it's not a godly testimony and it's not healthy. So I talked about that from a biblical point of view and really tried to be careful not to be condescending or judgmental, because it's not that people want to be dirty. They just haven't had a system in any way to be able to deal with it. And so we didn't want to just talk about the problem and be like, you're bad, you should be cleaner, because that doesn't do anybody good. I wanted to have a practical answer. And so Santos and I talked about it beforehand, and we donated a bunch of garbage bins, like giant garbage cans for each of the Christian streets, as well as an idea for the environment, like a recycling center for all the things that could be burned or put away in a safer way. Because, plastics and things need to be separated out from food garbage, because food garbage can be dealt with like fed to the cows, but the plastics should not be put near your garden. And, kind of talking about all those different environmental hazards and what's healthy and what's safe for the people living on top of all this garbage, and how can the church be a part of it. So the deacons and the pastor agreed to have like a church committee to work in the community to remove the garbage that's built up and to create this way for garbage removal so that they can have a system that works and that's efficient for having a clean living environment. So that was exciting for me to see the people receive it. They didn't take it in the wrong way or like they weren't offended. They were grateful for and to be clean and how to be healthy in their home, as well as how to have that testimony to their Hindu neighbors on taking care of the earth that God has given us, because of our faith in God, that we take care of what God has made and loves, not just destroy it. So it was an exciting thing for me to be able to have a community project to be able to be involved in as well. So most of the time I'm more involved in teaching to be able to get some more practical aspects. And there we had planned the cleanup day for the whole church, but then that's when we got food poisoning. So we weren't able to do that, but just kind of getting those things going and the ideas going and hoping we're following up from here to see how it's going and what else we can do to help, as well as, making sure that the spark doesn't die as soon as we're gone, but to keep that. And I really see that people are willing to commit to that. So just helping them learn how to do it and just whatever problems come up, how to work through it. And hopefully we can see a real community change for that village. So again, there was a lot more that we were able to do. We were able to take his father to the doctor about 5 or 6 hours drive away and help him get some MRI and some stuff done, and visit with other family members in that area, and take Jonathan to a zoo. If you haven't, you can go to my Facebook and see a lot more photos of things that we got to do while in India. But in general, like just for the missions side, it was very encouraging. It was very refreshing and just exciting. I've always had a call to do ministry in India, and to finally get to do that and to see God take that call that I've had since I was like 10 years old and actually let me have the opportunity to do that ministry was very touching for me and encouraging. And I'm just really excited that we got to do that, and looking forward to going again when God opens up those doors. So thank you again for your prayers and your support of LOAM Ministry and of us. If you do donate to LOAM right now, all the donations 100% go to the ministries themselves. We don't have any support, but as we're looking to transition to what God might do in the future, and possibly to start some new ministry ideas, we are looking for anyone who's willing to partner with us individually and to support us so that we can branch out into other ministry opportunities. So if you're interested in that, again, our newsletter kind of explains where we are and what we're doing, and here in Korea, what the ministry is in India, what kind of support we need for the ministries there and for ourselves. So if you're interested in any of that, please contact me or let me know here on this video, or if you're one of my Facebook friends that way, and I'll be glad to give you more of that information or to send you the newsletter. And finally, if you haven't gotten my book yet, I would love to just commercial that for a second and say, get my book. People that have gotten it are beginning to tell me the way God's using it to bless them, and it's super encouraging. It's really uplifting to see that be encouragement. And if you are loving the book or you have the book, please go to Amazon and do a review, because no one is doing reviews, and I need those to help it sell. And that money does come to support our ministry. So I appreciate anyone who wants to be involved in that as well. Well, God bless you, and thank you for being here for my report on our trip to India. Okay, bye-bye.